You guys, welcome back to Starkey Farmstead. So I want to show you how we set up our worm bins from start to finish. What I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to show you when I transfer over a couple of thousand worms, what it's going to look like. This is going to be a worm bin, a Red Wiggler composting worm bin. I get a lot of questions. Can you use night crawlers? Can you use Canadian, African night crawlers for this type of bin? Guys, there are two different types of worms, and in all honesty, they have two different types of needs. This is peat moss. It is not dirt, okay? So red wigglers never ever need to be housed in dirt because they are epigeic worms, which means, honey, get out of the bin. Oh, this is the born cat. I need to get her out of the bin. But back to what I was saying, epigeic worms are surface dwelling worms. They are not earth worms in the sense that they're going to go into the earth. Look, she's gonna follow me because she's spoiled. So what I'm gonna be doing now is I'm going to get this consistently damp. This is pretty dry. It is about a ½ inch deep, not very deep. Again, these are surface dwelling worms. They do not want it 7-8 inches deep because that is too deep for them. Let's talk about the step we're at. I have put 2 gallons of water on top of this dry peat moss. And basically peat moss, when you first take it out of the bag, is called hydrophobic. Literally means it's afraid of water. It is so dry that rather than absorbing the water puddles on top of it. So then you have to do this mixing by hand, okay? Because here's the thing, you guys. Red wigglers, well, all worm species, breathe through their skin. They must stay moist. Their environment must stay moist. If the material that you are putting them on is dry, they'll stick and they will die, okay? So now that you understand that you're dealing with a type of worm that is epigeic and is a topsoil dweller, it is a leaf litter dweller, then the environment that you build for them, whether you are doing that in a storage container, in a worm tower, or a big bed like this, which is like a commercial bed, then you need to understand that your worms are going to need very specific living materials for their environment to make them as healthy as possible. No dirt ever in these beds. You're going to put on the bottom either a peat moss or a coconut material, right? The shredded coconut material, which is better for the environment. But really what we're doing is we're putting organic matter on the bottom of the bed. Okay, so organic matter is what they live in when they're leaf dwellers. They live on top of the soil in a bunch of leaves, dead wood, dying grass, top soil like this. So it's not soil, but it's like if you go digging in the woods, you're gonna come up with like leaf litter, and you're gonna come up with what they call leaf gold. And that is all going to be broke down into this soft material, which is not really dirt. It's just a bunch of different organic matters that have decomposed underneath those thick leaves in the forest. That is the type of environment that we need to mimic. Everything that you're seeing right now is going to go into the worm bin. Shredded cardboard, toilet paper rolls, lint, hair, paper bags. This is composted horse manure, right? Straight horse manure would be way too hot, you guys. A bunch of leaves. Get a little further down and you've got rabbit manure. Rabbit manure is one of their favorites. It is a cold manure and can be used directly from the bunny's butt straight into your bins. So all of this material is now gonna go on top of this moist peat moss. Remember what I said, it has to be moist. You don't want it to drip water, but you want it to be moist, okay? Remember what I told you? Everything that you're fixing to put in this worm bin must be what? It must be moist. So 2 gallons of water, everything must be moist, right? All of this cardboard, it needs to be opened up, which I probably should have done prior to pouring the water, but it's gonna go on the top, so it'll be the last thing that I do. You need to get down here in the manure and mix all that water in, you guys. You see how dry that is? That can't go in the bin like that. It takes too long for dry material to break down, and you have to mimic the environment that these worms would naturally live in, which would be a humid, moist environment. Hence, the reason there is a plastic tarp over the top of our bed. This is a miniature-sized worm form that I have literally had in my house, in my living room for 2 months. You see the worms? You see how it's set up? Look at that. They love cardboard, you guys. Look, through every layer, just more and more worms. That is beautiful. So what I have done is mimic this system here on a much grander scale. And yes, this is hay, locally grown, no pesticides, and it too is damp. Everything about this bed mimics that. Now, something I want you to remember is bedding is food. The worms will eventually eat all of this. This is just corn out of my garden. They will eat all of this. The manure, the bedding, the hay, the cardboard, and leave their castings behind. Hence, worm castings. Now, a couple of cool facts that you need to know about worms before you begin your journey is that worms do not have teeth, okay? So you have to make sure that you have various types of food in here for them to be able to break down. This has been in there a week and a half. Notice, they've not made it inside yet. The reason being, they do not have teeth. They do, however, have a gizzard, which is similar to a chicken. So what you need to do is make sure that everything you put in here is open so they can get to the juicy bits. They're not going to be able to break down things like this, but they will be able to eat the bacteria that is breaking things down like this. And as you can see, worm castings are so good even without sunlight. Look at that sprouting. Wow. And guys, I can honestly say this smells like dirt. This does not have a bad odor to it at all. Now, what you're noticing here, that is ground eggshells and coffee grounds, okay? Your worms like a boost of coffee occasionally, just like you, but please make sure it is used coffee grounds, or you will raise the pH of your bed to such an extent it becomes acidic and the worms can't live in that environment. Now is dump over the old bin. Look at that, you guys. Hey, you guys have a new bed. You do not want to add any food to this environment for at least 2. Look at that baby. See how tiny? 2, maybe 3 days. All right. Give them time to adjust because, like I said, food, bedding is food. So there will be plenty in here for these guys to eat. You just need to spread out what was on top like this. They're even going to eat the cardboard and they're going to eat everything. They eat a lot. So if this is 2 pounds of worms, they technically would need 1 pound of food a day. That's how much they eat. But again, one more time, bedding is food. This is just supplemental, okay? They don't really even need it because the manures that I put in here, the composted horse manure, as well as the rabbit manure, is all the food that these guys are gonna need for about 3 months. And then this entire bed is gonna be cast. See right here in the center of my hand? That, my friends, is an egg. Isn't that beautiful? Let's lay that sweet little thing right, there we go, right back in there. So these guys are breeding. They are laying eggs. You can just gently take the hay, sprinkle it back across. There you go, folks. That's how you take one worm bin and put it in a bigger space. Now that they have the space that they need, these worms will go from 2,000 to about 8,000 in simply 3 months. And all of this will turn into high-end worm castings that I can then sell, as well as use to grow my 1/4 acre market garden. Because if you don't know, Farmstead is a debt-free 2 acre organic regenerative farmstead. Here we make biochar, we make worm castings, we make our own organic compost. And guys, all of that is what I use to grow my 1/4 acre market garden. I don't purchase any inputs for my garden at all. No fertilizers, no fertilizers, no herbicides, no pesticides. So I hope that this helps you see your dream come true, whether you're living on 20 acres, 200 acres, or 1/8 of an acre. You can mimic all of these systems on a smaller scale or a bigger scale, whatever it is that you, your family need to grow your own food. The last thing that I will do is take this blue plastic right here, pull it back over the top of my bin. What that does is, as the moisture in this bed evaporates, it catches on the plastic and drips back down. I will never need to add more water to these bins until they're finished. And it keeps my bins from getting too wet or too dry. Then I add the shade cloth just to keep it a little darker, because worms like it very, very dark. You need to mimic their natural habitat as much as possible. Now this side of the bin is almost ready to run. All of that, what you just saw on the other side, is how I start my bins. This is what they end up looking like. So as you can tell, this bin is ready to be run. When we get back from Maui, that's what I'll be doing. I'll be running this bin. And now it's a little dry on the edges always. So mix that back into the center so that no spot is completely dry. Now, we'll tell you this, if you let your bins go too long, your worms will die, because they're living in their own manure, and that is not good. No animal, nothing living, can sustain itself alone in its own manure, because the bacteria and stuff will make them sick. They run out of food, they run out of space, and they die. All right? So I just wanted to tell you guys that. Make sure you are running your worm beds on a regular basis. For me, that's about every 2.5, 3 months. My bins are ready. I run them in my handy dandy tumbler over here that Papa Sammy made for me. If you want to know how to make a tumbler, go to Papa Sammy, SAMMY, the and sign, ALYBUG. Alley Bug, Papa Sammy and Alley Bug, and he will walk you through making your own tumbler, saving yourself about $450. And he uses all recycled materials. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna teach you the concept, right? Because that's where people mess up. They wanna raise worms, but they don't understand the type of worm they're raising. Therefore, they purchase the wrong types of materials to bed their worms in. They want a tumbler, but they don't understand how to build it or what the purpose of tumbling your worm castings is for, and then they end up getting ripped off, buying materials and products that don't work. And Pawpaw Sammy is amazing on showing you how to do that. If you want to know what I just did, I added about a half a gallon of water to the center of this, mixed it in real good to keep it good and moist until we get back October 30th from our second mission trip to Maui. We thank you guys so much for spending the evening with me while I set up my new worm beds. Please pray for us. Keep us in your prayers. If you haven't done so, please like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome to the family where we keep it real all the time.